Welcome to the Daily Dose of B podcast. I'm your host, Brittany, and I'm about to give you a window into the mind of yours truly. In a world where journaling is passé and self-awareness is deficient among us all, here's your Daily Dose of B. Welcome back to another episode of Daily Dose of B podcast. It's not daily, but it is your dose of B. So hopefully now that I'm back into the swing of homeschool and it's fall and all of my professional things are kind of aligning. I know a lot of you that listen to me come through social media, and so about half of you know what I do for a living and about half of you probably don't. So just as a review, fall is when I get into more more mechanistic and disciplined routine, because I run and own a homeschool co-op drop-off learning club. So have to be doing that. That's kind of like my first love. My passion is definitely child development. And my other business is a health and coaching wellness company that I own. And we offer like meal plans, meal prep, and life coaching. And so I've just been sort of feeling my way of like how that's broadening and where I'm going to go in the future with that, because, well, I do still think there's a great need for people to coach others on nutrition and how to eat and how to live well, and especially addressing those like root cause traumas and disordered eating issues that lead to poor diets as adults. I still think that there's other aspects in most people's life that if they addressed, food is almost easier to address, because some of the times that people get caught up eating poorly, it has to do with their stress levels and the other things that are going on in their life. So having a more lifestyle holistic approach to coaching is really where I'm being drawn right now. And also like eating for proper hormone regulation. So that's something I'm diving into right now. And then another important factor in regulating your hormones is acknowledging what kind of products you're using on your body, on your hair, if you're using chemical sunscreen, all these things, because those affect your hormones, which affects your metabolism. So there's a lot there to cover, and I just wanted to go over that and say, if I get to dedicate more time to that, it will be because the other things in my life are going smoothly. And when I have less time for the podcast, it's because I'm hustling, right? And I am the sole provider for 2 small children. So it's a lot. It's a lot to do a podcast, even though I love this. This feels like my passion. I've always sort of felt internally called to like speak. And I think a lot of that came from being sort of held back and silenced a lot as a child. I tried very hard to just smile and say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and be accepted and loved, regardless of what I was thinking in my head. And I think I almost convinced myself that I wanted to be a rule follower and I wanted to do well because I just wanted that positive feedback loop. So podcasting gives me the opportunity to like let that out, and I love that out podcasting, and that's why I'm never going away. So if you don't see me for a little bit, do not dismay. I will be back. I love it, and I've made literally no money off of it. So it's literally just a hobby that I enjoy. So appreciate everyone who listens. And if you do listen, the best way to help me grow this from just being little old me who no one hears from, that no one cares about, to like a real podcast that other people listen to, is to subscribe, review, all those things. You know the deal. So what you do for other podcasts, do for my little podcast. It'll make me really happy. If you know me personally, you're obligated. We're friends, right? Eventually I'll have something more that looks more like a studio, hopefully, my next house that I move into. Anyway, the topic for today, which I've been toying with a lot because I like to have some kind of conclusive thoughts about something and have done a little bit of research before I start spouting off at the mouth, because once you say something, and especially once you publish it to the internet and the world, you're labeling some kind of ownership on those words. And I think a lot of us, myself included, don't heed that intensity well enough, right? We just kind of say things, and then we look back on what we said 5 years ago and we're like, wow, it was so dumb to have said that. And I want to be able to look back and say, I'm proud of that person. Like, even if I don't agree anymore, I'm proud of where I was. I'm proud of what I was working through. And that's why it takes me a long time to come up with what it is that I'm going to talk about, because I want it to feel meaningful for you, and I want it to be meaningful for me, because talking is another way of thinking, and we kind of figure out what we think when we're talking or when we're writing. And talking is a little bit easier for me than writing, always has been. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the complexity of connection and how our own barometer for believing we belong is often broken. I think for me, I've experienced this a lot with what I've gone through in my life in terms of partnering with people out of fear. I think that my 2 longest relationships in the last 10 years, one being 3 years and one being 6.5 years, that also included a 2-year marriage. Those men, even though there was nothing specifically wrong with them, they aren't fundamentally broken, I don't think, the way that some men are. I think that my problem is I tend to rush into things and say, it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be, right? And it's something that makes me a good mother. It's something that makes me a good business owner. It's something that makes me a good friend, because I'm not likely to ask a bunch of clarifying questions. I'm likely just to go in with you. I'm just likely to just put it out there and not really work on refining it, and not really look at it with a fine-tooth comb, and not really put it under a magnifying glass. And when you're choosing an intimate partner for life, especially if it's someone you're going to have children with, it should be someone that you comb over with a fine-tooth comb. And not to the point that you make yourself into a maximizer, right? There tends to be 2 types of people when they're dating. There's satisfizers and maximizers, right? So it's made up words, but you'll get the point. So satisfizers say, I'm looking for all these things. Having all these things would be great. But I recognize that I'm not going to be everything on anyone else's ask list, right? Because everyone has these ideal dreams about what they think like their one true love will be like. And it's okay that it's not going to be absolutely perfect, right? Human beings aren't perfect. Can you be satisfied with what you're given? Are you the person that looks at that thing and sees what it could be and what it can give you, and accept that you're not perfect too? I think that's the big difference between satisfizers and maximizers. Is satisfizers see their own humanness. They see their own challenges. And they say, I will choose to see this person who is really, really great as perfect for me, because I'm also really, really, really great and not perfect, right? And then you have maximizers on the other hand, which say, okay, so this person is blonde, they're tall, they're curvy, they're everything that I want, but they still live at home, or they have kids, or they don't have a really great job. Whatever the story is that you think, well, I can find someone who's this, and doesn't have kids, and has a great job. And they're always trying to maximize to that next level. They get 80% of what they want, but they're like not settling. And what happens is this type of person looks at themselves and says, I have a great job, I'm beautiful, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I deserve perfection because I am perfection. And they fail to see their own humanness. They fail to see where they fall short of the ideal. And so I think that's sort of the fundamental root of both of those perspectives on finding connection. Is some people can be satisfied because they see their own humanness, and some people can't. Which leads me to wonder, like I presented earlier, is like, what is good enough for us to get that sense of belonging and feel satisfied? What things can we not overlook? And I've spent a lot of time, making bad decisions out of fear. And I think if I could offer any advice, which I shouldn't, because I've done it really wrong. And there's no such thing as wrong, because everything that we do, it has benefits and consequences, right? Even if we do something where like, on paper, I probably could have, done something else and maybe it would have been easier, but we really couldn't have, because it wouldn't bring us into the self that we are now. So we really actually have to find a way to be super satisfied with even the mistakes that we make along the way. But when I look back and I see failed relationships, because I think if you don't have a lifetime love, that's a failed relationship. And I really do think, from the bottom of my heart, that the most ideal relationship is someone who sees you from your youth to your grave, right? Someone who sees the most beautiful you. And I'm never going to be able to give that to someone, I don't know, I'm close to my most beautiful me, but I'm lucky in that I peaked late. But most people, they're their most beautiful self at, 21, 22, 23. And ideally, we would find someone that saw us at our most beautiful and our most naive and our sweetest and our least bitter and our least scared, that got to meet the new versions of us as we became more wise, but also more bitter. Because those things kind of come together, right? You can use your experiences with the world, which are going to be tragic. You're going to have tragic experiences. That's part of the human condition. We just die, right? Shit on us fails, things go wrong, and you can do things to mitigate that. You can try, but even the healthiest person who eats the most salads can walk down the road and get hit by a car, right? That's the scary thing about being a person, is it's so fragile to be alive. And when we know that, it's kind of beautiful to think about as we suffer, and someone who loves us and is bonded with us watches us suffer. They watch us gain this wisdom, and they gain this wisdom with us. So I do think that is the ideal. And I think that we can all fall short of our own ideals, right? And I've certainly fallen short of mine. And to look at myself now and say, well, how do you know now? Like, how will you know? You didn't know before, right? Because I didn't know before what I needed and what I wanted. And I've gotten to the point where instead of waiting to be chosen and waiting for the person to accept me and think that I'm great, and offering myself to every single person who wants me and ask them, am I good enough for you? I meet with them in open, honest humanness, and I say, I'm just a human, and you're just a human, and could you see me from this physical body and watch it age and love me anyway? And so all of the really superficial aspects of, are they hot enough? Are they well read? Like all these things. It's like, you got to really be choosy to the things in there that will carry you through. And finding a woman who is young might sound nice to some men, and finding a man who's older and has provisions and has wealth might sound good to some women. But although there's nothing wrong with those things, we have to be honest with ourselves that there's something deeper that will bond us to each other, that will give us that deep sense of intimacy. And it goes beyond the physical manifestations of our lives, right? It used to really crush me to think that I couldn't offer someone something good anymore. That I even was really in love with someone who made me believe that I was actually less valuable because I made and kept 2 children. And I now know from time and reflection and journaling that a person who truly sees me, and this is true for any of you, someone who really sees you and knows your heart and sees you as earnest and full of integrity and full of love and full of care and dedication, that person will have such a drive to have you in their life that magnetism will be so strong that no amount of external difficulties, no amount of, I want to think of the words that I've heard used before, no amount of logistical problems could stop it. And I used to believe that because I made mistakes, I wasn't entitled to that. Like, I really believed that I should just give up. And I think sometimes we have to get to that point. We have to get to the point that we are all the way willing to give up. We are all the way willing to say, I don't deserve it. To be shown by God, by the universe, by our own internal knowing, by conviction, whatever your internal conscience is, whatever voice that you can listen to that you know is inner wisdom. That's not the noise inside your brain. It's not the overthinking, but the true deep inner wisdom. And the deep inner wisdom that I've always known and that I fundamentally know is true is that my life matters and that I matter. And if you can say the same for yourself, that your life matters, and it does. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're listening to this and you think, I don't matter, you do. There's a U-shaped hole in the earth, and you are the one key that can fit that space. And we need exactly who you are to be the best you can be. And that's the only way we can be the best us that we can be as humankind. We need everyone. We need everyone's energy and everyone's essence. But I always had this inner calling, that I was going to make something of myself, and not in any way this like, oh, I'm going to be famous or something like that. I didn't feel like it needed to be that. It's just that I had something to say. And I guess my something to say right now is that you can be sure that if you are meticulous to look for the things that truly matter in an intimate partner, if you're willing to not comb through their resume of what their past jobs were, not to comb through their, workout routines, right? Not this meaningless surface shallow thing. But if you're willing to go, what kind of decisions do they make? What kind of integrity have they shown? Have they overcome adversity? Are they kind to people when no one is looking? Are they good to themselves? Do they hurt themselves? Do they punish themselves for their mistakes? Or do they show themselves grace? Because however someone treats themselves and how they treat others, that's how they're going to treat you. However they conduct themselves in business, at work, if they're giving their 100% at work, then there's a good chance they'll give their 100% to you. If they only give 100% when the person's watching them at work, If they're one of those people that have to be micromanaged, they're going to have to be micromanaged in a relationship. And those are the things that we really need to focus on. So that's my episode for today. I hope it was helpful. I do feel like I'm doing a lot of content on relationships and personal anecdotes, but that's what feels good right now. And this is just kind of my diary of sorts. And if you're along for the ride, thank you for being here. And if you didn't enjoy it, you can also tell me at Daily Dose of B Pod on Instagram or at my Facebook page, Brittany J. Hopefully it stays around. And that's it. That's it for today, guys.
Thanks for listening to my podcast, Daily Dose of B. I really hope you liked it. If you did, leave me a 5-star review. You know the drill. It'll help bump me in the algos, and I will love you forever. Have a great one.